The dim emergency lights of the crashed scout ship flickered like dying stars across the cramped medical bay, casting long, jagged shadows that danced across the walls. Dr. Marcus Hale knelt beside the emergency cot, his hands trembling as he adjusted the makeshift bandage around the alien female's thigh. She had appeared out of nowhere during the salvage operation on the derelict station, silver-skinned, ethereal, with those impossible violet eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies. Her name, she had whispered through the translator, was Lyra. Now, after hours of tense survival in the wreckage, the air thick with the metallic tang of leaking coolant and the faint ozone of her strange biology, Marcus felt the weight of their impossible situation pressing down on him like the collapsing hull itself. She had saved his life earlier, dragging him from the collapsing corridor when the bulkhead gave way. Her strength was inhuman, her touch cool and precise as she sealed his bleeding side with some organic paste from her palms. They had talked in fragments about Earth, about her crystalline oceans under triple suns, about the loneliness that had driven both their missions into this fatal collision. She listened with a quiet intensity that made his chest ache, her glowing veins pulsing softly beneath her luminous skin in time with his ragged breathing. For the first time since the expedition began, he didn't feel like the last survivor. He felt seen. But now, something had shifted. The oxygen recyclers were failing faster than expected, the air growing thin and heavy, making every word an effort. Lyra had grown quieter, her star-flecked eyes fixed on him with an unreadable depth. Marcus wiped sweat from his brow, his heart hammering not just from the thinning atmosphere but from the way she watched him. Like he was something precious and fragile all at once. Suddenly, without warning, Lyra pushed herself up from the cot with fluid grace despite her injury. She stood for a brief moment, swaying slightly, her crystalline exosuit remnants clinging to her curves like liquid light. Then, slowly, deliberately, she dropped to her knees in front of him. Marcus froze, his mind blanking completely. Confusion slammed into him like a physical blow. "Lyra? What are you?" His voice cracked, the words dying in his throat as he stared down at her. She was on her knees, head slightly bowed, those delicate hands resting on her thighs, the faint glow of her veins brightening along her arms and throat. Her smooth, hairless head caught the emergency light in soft pearlescent hues, shifting from lavender to warm pearl. The position made her look vulnerable, almost reverent, but there was nothing submissive about the way her violet eyes lifted to meet his. Intense, searching, filled with a hunger that sent a shiver racing down his spine. The air between them thickened, charged with something electric and unspoken. Marcus's heart pounded wildly, his thoughts scrambling in a dozen directions at once. Was this some alien ritual? A gesture of surrender? A plea for help? Or something far more intimate, far more dangerous? He had read the briefing files on potential first contact protocols, but nothing had prepared him for this. Her beauty was disarming, yes, high cheekbones, full lips slightly parted, that inner luminescence making her skin look like living moonlight, but the confusion twisting in his gut was sharper than fear. Why now? Why here, in this dying ship with death closing in? "Lyra," he managed, his voice hoarse, reaching out instinctively to help her up. "You don't have to. I mean, you're hurt. Get back on the cot. We need to conserve energy, figure out a way to signal." She caught his hand mid-air, her fingers cool and strong, wrapping around his wrist with surprising gentleness. The contact sent a spark through him, warm and cool at once, as if her body was adjusting to his temperature. "Marcus," she whispered, her voice melodic with that starborn accent that bypassed his implant and settled straight into his mind like warm silk. "Do not fear. This is not pain. This is offering." Offering? His mind reeled. The word hung between them, heavy with implications he couldn't quite grasp. He tried to pull his hand back, but she held it firmly, not hurting him, just anchoring him. Her other hand rose slowly, tracing the air near his knee before resting lightly on his thigh. The touch was feather-light, yet it burned through his torn jumpsuit, sending confusing signals straight to his core, comfort mixed with alarm, tenderness laced with something primal and alien. I don't understand," he stammered, his face flushing hot despite the dropping temperature in the bay. His free hand hovered uselessly, wanting to push her away, wanting to pull her closer, caught in the storm of his own bewilderment. We're trapped here. The hull is breached in 3 sections. Oxygen is at 20% and falling. This isn't the time for whatever this is. Are you praying? Is this some cultural thing? A thank you for the bandage? Because you don't owe me anything. You saved me first. Lyra's lips curved into a small, enigmatic smile, revealing the faintest hint of sharp, crystalline teeth that glinted in the low light. Her eyes never left his, the silver stars within them swirling faster, like galaxies caught in a gravitational pull. Your people kneel for many reasons, she murmured, voice low and layered with harmonics that vibrated gently in his chest. For worship. For proposal. For submission. For love. She tilted her head, the smooth crown of her skull catching the light like polished stone. On my world, we drop to our knees when we choose to share the deepest light. When we decide the other is worthy of merging. Merging. The word sent a fresh wave of confusion crashing over Marcus. His breath hitched, pulse thundering in his ears. Part of him, the logical, scientific part, screamed that this was a first contact misunderstanding, a translation error that could end in disaster. Another part, the lonely human part that had buried grief for years after losing his fiancée in the colony riots, felt a treacherous warmth bloom in his chest at the way she looked at him. Like he mattered. Like he was the center of her universe in this dying metal coffin. He swallowed hard, trying to steady his voice. Merging? Like minds? Telepathy? We have protocols for that. Neural interfaces. But you're on your knees, Lyra. This looks like... I don't know what this looks like. It's confusing the hell out of me. Are you hurt worse than I thought? Is the pain making you delirious? She laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes made of crystal, and the glow beneath her skin brightened, veins tracing delicate spirals down her neck and across her collarbones. The exosuit remnants seemed to melt slightly at the edges, becoming more translucent, revealing more of her luminous form. Not pain. Not delirium. Clarity. Her fingers on his thigh tightened just a fraction, not demanding, but inviting. You bandaged my wound with your own hands. You spoke to me of your lost love, your empty skies, your stubborn hope that clings even when the dark presses close. You did not run when I showed you my true eyes. You called my world beautiful in your clumsy human words. That is rare. That is intoxicating. Marcus's confusion deepened into a knot of emotion. Fear, curiosity, an unwelcome flicker of desire he tried desperately to squash. His mind flashed to the briefings: alien physiology unknown, cultural norms unpredictable, risk of misinterpretation catastrophic. Yet here she was, kneeling before him, her face level with his waist, looking up with those vast violet eyes that made him feel exposed, raw, completely seen. The suspense coiled tight in his gut. What would she do next? What did merging really mean in her language? Was this the moment first contact turned intimate, or deadly? He tried to stand, to create distance, but his legs felt heavy, the thin air making his movements sluggish. Lyra, please. Stand up. Talk to me like equals. I'm completely lost here. 1 minute we're fighting for survival, sharing stories to stay sane, and the next you're on your knees like you're about to. He cut himself off, cheeks burning. The words wouldn't come. The image in his head was too absurd, too human, too dangerous to voice in this fragile bubble of trust they had built. Like I am about to what? She prompted gently, her breath cool against the fabric of his jumpsuit. She leaned forward slightly, her hands sliding up to rest on both his thighs now, steadying herself or him. The contact was electric, her cool skin warming rapidly to match his feverish heat. Tiny filaments, almost invisible, seemed to extend from her palms, brushing against him like the softest static. Not penetrating, not yet, but testing, tasting. Your confusion is sweet, Marcus. It tastes like starlight and fear and longing all mixed. On my world, we do not hide behind words when the soul calls. We offer. We receive. We become. His heart slammed against his ribs, a wild, erratic rhythm. Suspense thickened the air until it felt like breathing syrup. He could feel the station groaning around them, distant creaks of stressed metal reminding him that time was running out. Yet he couldn't look away from her face, beautiful alien, filled with an emotion he couldn't name. Tenderness? Hunger? Both? His hands hovered above her shoulders, unsure whether to lift her or hold her there. The emotional intensity built like a storm, the grief he had shared with her earlier now mirrored in her eyes, mixed with something ancient and needy. I'm human, he whispered, voice breaking. I don't know your rituals. I don't know what dropping to your knees means to you. It's messing with my head. Part of me wants to pull you up and keep fighting for escape. Another part, he trailed off, swallowing the admission. The loneliness that had haunted him for years, the empty nights, the missions that were really just running away rose up, choking him. She had listened without judgment. She had saved him. And now this. Lyra's expression softened, a single silver tear tracing down her cheek, evaporating into luminous mist before it reached her jaw. Your confusion is the most honest thing I have felt in cycles. My people, we have wandered the dark for so long, collecting fragments of light from those who call us beautiful, who open their hearts even for a moment. But you gave without asking for return. Your pain, your hope, your clumsy kindness. It sings inside me already. Her hand slid higher, fingers splaying across his hips, the filaments now gently pressing, seeking connection points along his nerves. Not invasive yet, but promising depths he couldn't fathom. Marcus gasped, the sensation a confusing blend of pleasure and alarm, his body responding despite his racing mind. Lyra, stop. Or don't. I don't know. I'm so confused. This feels wrong and right and terrifying all at once. His voice dropped to a broken whisper. If this is how your people show gratitude, or love, or whatever it is, tell me plainly. Because right now, with death breathing down our necks, all I can think is that I don't want to die without understanding you. Without really seeing you. She rose slightly on her knees, bringing her face closer to his, her breath mingling with his in the thin air. The glow of her veins pulsed in time with his heartbeat now, sinking them in a way that felt intimate and invasive. Then let me show you, she murmured, voice thick with emotion. Not with words. With the merging. It begins with surrender. With trust. With me on my knees before the light I have chosen. Her lips brushed the air near his abdomen, not touching, but close enough that he felt the warmth radiating from her. You are confused because your world teaches fear of the unknown. Mine teaches that the unknown, when beautiful, is worth becoming part of. The suspense peaked, his mind a whirlwind of questions and emotions, fear for their survival, confusion at her actions, a deep aching longing he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Tears stung his eyes as the weight of their shared vulnerability crashed over him. The ship groaned again, a warning that their time was measured in minutes now. Yet in this single, charged moment, with Lyra on her knees looking up at him with galaxies in her eyes, Marcus felt more alive than he had since the day he lost everything. What happens next? He whispered, his hand finally settling on her smooth shoulder, trembling. If I say yes, what happens to me? To us? Her smile returned, radiant and edged with something ancient, something that made his blood run hot and cold. We become more than two. Your light joins mine. Your memories, your love, your pain, they live forever inside me. And I will carry you across the stars. She leaned in closer, the filaments extending further, a gentle pressure building at the points of contact. But only if you choose. The confusion ends when you decide. Marcus's breath caught, the emotional storm inside him reaching its crest, terror, desire, grief, hope all tangled together in a knot so tight it hurt. In the flickering light of the dying ship, with death closing in, he stared down at the alien girl on her knees before him, heart pounding, completely and utterly confused, and yet, for the first time, undeniably drawn into the mystery of what she offered. The station's alarms began to wail faintly in the distance, but neither of them moved. The scene hung suspended, heavy with possibility and peril, as Lyra waited on her knees for the human's answer, her violet eyes never leaving his, the glow between them growing brighter with every shared, ragged breath.